She didn't look dangerous. No wild eyes. No stolen goods in her hands. No blood on her clothes. Just the girl, barely 20, walking alone in the rain. Head down, hood up, quiet. She had just finished her shift. 12 hours on her feet, cleaning offices that smelled like money. All she wanted was to go home. But fate had other plans. Plans that came in flashing red and blue. Tense pause. The cruiser stopped. 2 doors opened. And then came the voice that would change her life. Put your hand where I can see them. What? She froze. Was this a mistake? Was this even real? She turned around, slowly. The officer stepped closer. A woman in uniform. Cold eyes. Firm grip on her cuffs. You match the description. Don't try to run. Run? From what? From who? She was just walking home. But tonight, home would be a jail cell. The handcuffs were cold. Too tight. She winced but didn't fight. Because how do you resist something you don't even understand? Her voice trembled. I didn't do anything. No response. The officer stayed silent, stone-faced, professional. But inside, even she had doubts. Why did this feel wrong? Inside the patrol car, everything smelled like leather and fear. The girl stared out the window, watching her neighborhood blur by, as if she'd never belonged there again. She whispered, "Can you at least tell me what this is about?" Finally, a reply, "Armed robbery. Downtown. You fit the description." Robbery? She barely had enough to eat. She just clocked out of a minimum wage cleaning job. Could clothes lie that much? Could a hood and a tired walk turn you into a suspect? At the station, they took her fingerprints, her photo, her backpack. They asked where she'd been, what she was wearing, why she walked that street. And every answer she gave was the truth, but it didn't feel like it mattered, because to them, she wasn't her. She was just a file, a case, a maybe, and the worst part, she didn't even know if they believe her when the truth came out, because that night, the system wasn't looking for innocence. It was just looking for someone to blame. The interrogation room was freezing, not just from the AC, from the way they looked at her, as if truth was optional, and silence suspicious. The detective leaned in. "You sure you weren't there? Cameras don't lie." Her heart sank. Cameras? She'd been wiping floors at that exact time. But she didn't clock out. Not electronically. The boss had let her go early. Just this once. And now there was no proof. The questions kept coming. Fast. Relentless. Designed to trap. Why were you wearing a hoodie? Why were you alone? Why didn't you call anyone? She tried to explain. Tried to stay calm. But every word felt like a crack in a dam. And when the officer folded her arms and said, "It's not looking good," she broke. Tears. Silent. Shaking. Not from guilt, but from the weight of being invisible. No lawyer. No call. No one who'd miss her if she disappeared for a night. Or forever. Then came a knock on the door. A second officer entered. Whispered something. The detective's eyes narrowed. She stood up, left, closed the door. The girl sat there alone, cold, cuff confused. Was she about to be cleared or condemned? Because in rooms like that, truth doesn't always win. And sometimes it doesn't even get heard. The door creaked open. The detective stepped back inside, expression unreadable. She dropped a folder on the table, slid it across. "Recognize this?" The girl looked down. A printed photo. Blurry. Surveillance cam footage. It was someone in a hoodie, dark jeans, walking fast past the gas station at 9:13 p.m., exactly when the incident happened. "That's you, isn't it?" The detective pressed. But it wasn't. The girl stared closer. Same build, same hair, same posture. "But no, that's not me," she said, voice trembling. The detective didn't answer, just stared, until the second officer stepped in again. She handed over a USB. Footage from the back alley. Just came in. The detective plugged it in. They watched in silence. And then The girl's breath caught. It was her, plain as day. 9:13 p.m. She was walking past her boss's driveway, carrying a mop and a garbage bag. The timestamp was clear, and she wasn't near the gas station. She wasn't near the crime. The detective froze, sat back, exhaled, then looked up, and for the first time, there was something human in her eyes. She uncuffed her. No words, just a soft click of freedom. But the girl didn't move, didn't smile, didn't even cry. She just sat there, gripping her wrist, trying to make sense of a world where your face alone could almost cost you everything. As she stepped out into the night, she looked at the city lights, and for the first time, they looked different. Not magical, not full of dreams, just dangerous. Because in this world, even walking home can be a crime if no one's there to say otherwise. Days passed, then weeks. The bruises on her wrists faded, but something inside didn't. She went back to cleaning, back to walking, back to quiet corners and silent glances. But the world felt colder now, sharper, like it was always watching, waiting. She kept her head down, but inside, something had changed. She wasn't the same girl who had once walked home, thinking the law protected her. No, now she knew sometimes you have to protect yourself from the law. So she filed a complaint, wrote it herself, word by word, hands shaking, but heart steady. She knew it might not go anywhere. She knew the system was a machine too big for one voice. But she also knew this. If they can grab me for walking home, how many others have they silenced? The news picked it up. Local first, then national. Wrongfully arrested. Housekeeper speaks out. That headline ran for days. People listened. People questioned. And for once, she wasn't invisible anymore. Months later, she stood outside a house. Not her boss's. Not the one where she scrubbed floors. Her own. It wasn't huge. Wasn't fancy. But it was hers. Because sometimes, the ones you overlook, the ones you try to erase, they come back. Not just to survive, but to rise. So the next time you see someone walking home, alone, quiet, unnoticed, ask yourself, do I really know who they are? Because you might just be passing. The strongest story you'll never hear. But wait, you thought that was the end? Not even close. When her story hit the news, it shook the department. That officer, the one who cuffed her without cause, she was placed on temporary leave. But that wasn't justice. Not yet. So this girl, this maid, filed a civil suit, wrongful arrest, emotional distress, unlawful detainment. Her lawyers weren't rich. They weren't flashy, but they were hungry. And her truth was powerful. And truth, once it finds light, spreads like wildfire. The courtroom was packed. Reporters, activists, former clients who had always respected her, but never really saw her. Until now, the officer took the stand. Nervous, defensive. I thought she matched the description, she said. The lawyer leaned forward. Calm, precise. Did the description say, walking home quietly in work clothes? Silence. The judge's ruling came swift and sharp. Unlawful arrest. Violation of civil rights. Damages awarded. She didn't smile. Not yet. Because no money could erase what she felt. That night on the sidewalk. The cold metal. The fear. The humiliation. But still, it was something. A crack in the wall. And that crack, it grew. Local groups began training programs. How to identify bias in real-time policing. Her case became part of the curriculum. Not because she wanted fame, but because she didn't want the next girl, walking home, to end up in cuffs. The handcuffs are gone, but the memory stays. And with it, a mission to remind the world, I am not what you assumed. I am not what you feared. I am more. It's been 3 years since that night. 3 years since the sidewalk turned into a scene, and a quiet walk home became a headline. But now, her steps are different, no longer silent. no longer afraid. Every step she takes is a statement. She speaks at schools, at town halls, at community forums where young girls sit, wide-eyed, and listen, not to a victim, but to a warrior. I was underestimated. I was mislabeled, but I stood tall, and I fought back. And that policewoman, she never returned to the force. She gave an interview once, said she regretted how it happened, said it wasn't personal, but it was personal. It always is. She didn't buy that officer's house. No, she built her own, a place where she can see the stars, through clean glass windows, where her name is on the title. And the only thing behind locked doors is peace. So the next time you see someone walking alone, look twice, think deeper, and remember, you don't know someone's story until you hear it whispered from the silence you almost ignored.